What's going on with NVIDIA stock? They're reporting earnings this Wednesday after closing bell. And a lot of people are wondering, what should I do with NVIDIA stock? Should I sell before earnings? I don't think many people are probably buying it here after this epic run, but I'm going to give you an earnings preview here and some thoughts about the stock and just what I'm going to do with the stock personally. I've been long on this stock since 2018. It's been my highest conviction AI stock since I started this channel, and it is my top holding in my primary taxable brokerage. So I want to share my thoughts with you guys. So in case you just woke up from a coma, NVIDIA has been flying off of AI news and AI hype. Stock is up 118.75% year to date. Over the past year, it's up 85.31%. 5-year, it's up 402.47%. Now check this out. 52-week low, $108.13. 52-week high just recently here, $318.28. Trading today at $313.14. Now on this channel, I was pounding the table 150 or less buy NVIDIA, and it kept going lower, and I got lots of trolls and haters saying the stock was going to go to $50. The AI machine turned on. Institutional investors started to get very bullish on it. Lots of news started to unfold, and the stock just ran. So this is one that you could say is pretty close to parabolic, if not parabolic. You're looking at a $775 billion market cap. So by comparison, Meta Platforms, $642 billion market cap. So NVIDIA is worth more than Meta at this point. And at the beginning of the year, I did a video, next trillion-dollar companies. NVIDIA is on that list. At the rate it's going to be $1 trillion by next year. So let's take a look at this, look at the valuation, what the earnings expectations are, and talk about what could happen to the stock if it misses. So Wednesday, May 24th, NVIDIA is going to report after closing bell. From its October 2022 low, where the stock has nearly tripled. It's tripled from its October 2022 low. So you're talking about a 300% gain in a little over a half a year. The consensus sell side rating on the stock remains a buy, and I've seen analysts come out, raise their price targets to $350. You know how that game works. When the stock was $108, the analysts are coming out and cutting the price target, saying it's going to go to 80. Then when it goes to 300, let's raise our target to 350 to justify it. And those targets are going to run stocks both directions, and we generally don't follow them. What we do look at price targets for is just sentiment of what's going on with the market. So consensus EPS estimate is 91 cents. Revenue estimate, $6.52 billion. NVIDIA has beaten EPS estimates in 6 of the past 8 quarters, rising above revenue expectations in 100% of those reports. Now, if you're familiar with RSI, Relative Strength Index, that's a scale of 0 to 100. Anytime you get 70 or higher, it's really overbought. 30 or less, generally oversold. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a buy or a sell or anything like that, but oftentimes when that RSI gets above 70, means the stock is probably going to consolidate at some point soon, but it can go for much higher and much longer. So right now, the RSI is a 69.33. The stock was overbought and it sold off from 318 to 313 basically. So if you remember Q4 FY23, most recent quarter, NVIDIA saw its sales in gaming decline 46% to $1.83 billion as sales of desktops, laptops, of course, cooled. So you had the pandemic, everybody is staying at home, they're buying machines, they're upgrading their PCs and devices, and then you're going to have kind of the back end of that where it's a cycle where it slows down. It's going to take some time before people start upgrading again. And a big part of this came down to supply chain issues. So what happens is basically you're going to stockpile when there's a shortage. It's hard to get something, so you're going to order more, you're going to stockpile. And it's saying here, PC vendors could potentially work through existing inventory they built up previously, impacting NVIDIA. That said, their data center business, which is now their single largest target market, is 60% of revenue in most recent quarter. And of course, AI is going to be data center focused, essentially helping with those large language models. And on top of that, NVIDIA is also doing the AI as a service. So they're really going from hardware to more software, and they're going to balance that out. When you look at the total addressable market for NVIDIA, it's $600 billion, the TAM for AI. $300 billion of that is hardware and $300 billion of that is software, and it's really just getting started. So we did a video earlier in the year when the stock was much lower saying that AI, NVIDIA really is the king of AI. So you can see it talks about some of that here. NVIDIA chips are generally perceived to be more advanced and more capable than rivals when it comes to AI-related workloads. workloads. Of course, AMD and others are starting to get more and more into this as well. And I'm bullish on AMD and several other names as well. The company has been looking to develop an ecosystem of sorts around its AI tools. And this is the differentiator, because AMD or another competitor could come out and make hardware that competes with NVIDIA. But NVIDIA has built this ecosystem, which is really hard to replicate. So it has its own programming languages, software, and more. Again, that AI as a service model, helping the company to better lock in customers. It's more sticky. Over Q4 2023, the company saw sales in the data market grow by 11% year over year. So lackluster, but still growing to $3.62 billion. And the company has indicated that it was likely to see strong sequential growth over Q2. So that could be a surprise at the upside. So this article is saying, is NVIDIA a buy ahead of earnings? And I'm going to do some more analysis on this myself and show you a chart here later, so stay tuned. But this is saying 63x forward earnings and 23x sales. Competition in the AR market could mount, with traditional rivals such as Intel and AMD potentially inventing to catch up in this space. Also, tech players like Google are doubling down on AI machine learning related silicon, but you're also seeing a lot of these vendors make a lot of their own chips now too, and there's a lot going on in this space. So this article is showing NVIDIA stock price valued at $178 a share, so that's 35% below where it's trading today. In case you're curious where they got that number, it's right here. So it's trading at $313, and the valuation per share on this is $178.30. So according to this, as of the stock price right now, implied downside negative 43%. I'm going to share this too really quick because I thought it was comical. This article says that they're long SMH but never owned NVIDIA directly, so they don't have a dog in the fight. Oops. Here's another article. NVIDIA expected to beat earnings estimates. Can the stock move higher? I think most people watching this are going to say, no, the stock can't go higher. It's going to sell off, right? I'll tell you my thoughts here in a couple minutes. So NVIDIA is expected to deliver a year-over-year decline in earnings on lower revenues. So the bar is pretty low here. So we talked about the earnings per share. The expectation is 92 cents. Look at this. Represents a year-over-year change of negative 32.4%. Can you recall in your investing career where a company is going to report negative 32% year over year and the stock being up over 100% in a short amount of time, 300% from the bottom? This run for NVIDIA has been, it's been historic. It's been an epic run. So next I'm going to look at valuation, provide some thoughts, and then a chart. Before I do that, I need to announce this video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. If you'd like to see the 10 best stocks to buy now, visit fool.com/firedupwealth. You can also join our private community, Patreon Discord, by checking out patreon.com/firedupwealth. If you're new here, subscribe, click that bell for notifications. I'm trying to get this channel over 40,000 subscribers. You can help me out by subscribing today. And if the video is useful, drop a like and a comment. I appreciate you. All right, let's check out Fidelity really quick. So NVIDIA right now, $313.34. According to this, PE ratio 179.53. And I'm going to give you some more information on this, so hold on. So again, 52-week range, 108.13 to 318.28. This is from October 13th to May 18th. And this, my friends, is what you call a V-shaped recovery. This was November of 2021, basically $335. I think it got up over $340 for a little while, dropped all the way down to that 108, and now back in that range at about $315 a share. Now, what I think is interesting is the short interest is only 1.37%. So the market's telling you that this is a train that most people do not want to get in front of. So mega cap, $773 billion. Price to sales ratio, 28.76. Price to book, 34.88. PEG ratio, you usually want this 1 or less. You know, sometimes expensive stocks are 2 and 3. This is 8.48. Now, with that said, this, according to Fidelity, PE this year's estimate says 68.1 and next year's estimate says 50.9. So this is where it can get a little bit challenging. You're coming off of pretty easy comps for NVIDIA. So what happens when NVIDIA starts beating those numbers? The thing about Wall Street is they always want to see you beating comps, you know, quarter over quarter, year over year. And it's why stocks like Zoom Video just can't recover, because the comps are impossible and it just can't get back into that phase. You look at something like NVIDIA and you could see a year from now them on paper looking like they're absolutely crushing it, but the bar is really low, so it's easy to beat those comps. Now on the channel, we do a lot of videos covering best stocks to buy now. And NVIDIA at $300 plus wouldn't be something I'd categorize as a buy now. I would definitely definitely wait for earnings. I'm going to show you a chart here though and share where I think the stock could go and what I would do if I own the stock today. And of course, you guys know that I own the stock. It's my top holding. Now, every single Wednesday, we do chart day in Patreon Discord. If you see orange, that's a previous chart day. If you see yellow, it's today's chart day. There's no yellow because I'm just going to tell you what I see. So you can see this massive run up on NVIDIA. And we talked about this. We said that it was going to go higher. Fired Up Wealth has been very bullish in the stock, 150 or less. And we were really strong in this, pounding the table when it got down to that 125, under 115, saying DCA. We said if it got really ugly, it'd go 103, 105. It didn't quite get there. It got to $108. And you can see it bounce from 108 to 187, then pull back to 138, and then it just ripped from 138. So this right here is December of 2022. And it really came into 2023 with the bar pretty low. And then AI started to get pumped left and right, and it just rocketed from there. Now, if you look at this is Fibonacci retracement. Generally, you want to be buying down here and selling up here in the red. It's way past everything. It's blown through all the resistance. These are Fibonacci's. You've got resistance and support, blown past the R3. And we said that the stock, would go to 285 and potentially 315, and it's gotten right there. So this is my top holding. I've owned it since the 30s. I think my cost basis is in the high 30s. I personally am not selling any NVIDIA here because most of what I own is actually house shares. I've trimmed it in the past and I've had it since 2018 in several different accounts. I think the main thing is why you bought the stock in the first place. Now, one of my top 15 investing rules is never be afraid to take profits or to trim. And I'm not saying you have to liquidate, but you can trim 10, 15% of the gains, sell some of your cost basis, and take that cash. I can't tell you what to do with your money. I'm not a financial advisor, but it's not a bad idea to trim if you're happy with the profits you made. So in other words, say you bought the stock at 150 and your idea was, if I double on this stock in 5 years, I'll be satisfied. Well, if you doubled on the stock in 6 months, there's no reason you couldn't take some profits on that. Now, when I sell, of course, I've got taxes to pay and I'm trying to hold for 2030 or beyond. So the idea for me is that I'm going to hold this stock. I know it's going to have some ups and downs, but I'm just going to keep holding it to 2030. I think it's going to be worth a lot more. If I was more of a trader or if I was worried about the gyrations in the short term, this is an area where you could trim the stock and probably sleep better at night, just trimming a little off the table. How much is up to you? Again, if you're happy with 100% return and that's what you got, you would sell it, but you would not want to look back. So many people sell and then they look back, 6 months and say, I wish I wouldn't have sold. If you make the decision to sell, you do it, you're happy with the gains you made and you move on. If not, find a compromise. Maybe it's selling 10% of your position. Maybe it's selling the cost basis and letting the rest run. Or maybe you're really bullish on it and you don't want to trim any, even though you know it could easily drop 20, 30%. This stock could drop 30% and I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying my expectations as a long-term investor, this thing is running pretty hot. I think that hype is going to continue though, and I think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish in the stock. Not necessarily that I'm going to buy it at $300 plus, but as a long-term investor, it's probably worth more. If you're trying to play this safe and really, buy low and sell high, this is an area you're going to be trimming at 300 plus, not buying. Now, earnings coming up, my expectation is that they'll beat on top and bottom lines, but then what is the guidance going to say, and what's the market baked in for expectations? So I think there's a solid chance the stock will sell off some. I think it's really hard if you want to own NVIDIA because people are saying, I can't wait for it to pull back. I don't know if it's going to pull back to $178. It certainly could happen, but you might see it pull back to say $250, and then you have to decide, do you still want to buy it at that price, which is still an elevated price? And that's why I like to buy stocks when they're on their downtrend, why it's important to have conviction and do your homework and have due diligence and understand the companies you're owning so that when they go down, you realize that it's just the stock action and not the actual company that's broken. The stock price was broken for NVIDIA, not the company. And now you might argue that the stock price is broken again, but the other direction. So in the end, do what's best for you. I'm bullish. I'm personally not selling any, but I could easily see a case where somebody would want to trim or maybe even sell out of their position here. And it really comes down to the person. If you're a trader, if you're an investor, what your goals are, your timelines, why you bought it in the first place, how it fits in your blueprint, and so on. I think NVIDIA will be worth a lot more in 5 or 10 years, but I don't think it's going to be a straight line up from here. I appreciate your time and attention, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Drop me a like, drop me a comment. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.